And I'm excited to talk about the most important thing of all. Do you know what that is, Lude?
I have no clue.
Which outfits they're wearing.
Oh yeah, of course. I'm gonna have to say flachmitz has the best one, since it's the most resemblant to mine. So that's all my input.
So we have Giga on the right, who's playing as the Myogi character, and on the left we have flachmitz playing as the V character with the Angel Knight getup, which is pretty cool.
Oh. Okay, so no Ruby fails so far. That's always a good start. That's unlike me. Moving on.
So yeah, both of them out of there with no problems so far. That's really good. Looks like Giga is using a different weapon there. He's switching back to Greed. Okay, so they're both doing about the same thing. Now, floating keep. This is a really fun part of the game. You've got to be kind of careful because these saves are long, things can go wrong, and then you lose a lot of time when you die. Despite the fact that this is the very first level of the game, it's actually one of the more difficult, I would say, for the run.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, if you want to get a really good floating keep, it's gonna take you a lot of tries, most likely. Oh, and flachmitz just had a pretty bad death over there.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So
yeah.
if you take a fall, like at the end of that save, like he was like just in front of that save point. He would have touched that, he would have been fine. But unfortunately, taking that death, that's going to cost him probably a good 20 seconds or so.
Yeah, even though it like might be very easy if you compare it to other areas of the game, just the fact that it is easy can make you overconfident. And it's something you especially don't want in the floating keep, since the saves are so long.
Alright, so Giga just finishing up with the first portal, picking up that flutter feather. We'll now be able to flap his wings and fly to get around the game a little bit easier. Flachmitz having trouble with that damage boost. The damage boost is a cool trick where you take a hit from an enemy, which pops you up into the air, and then you can jump off of that boost to get a little bit more height than the game intended you to have. But it is kind of precise. You've only got a couple frames to hit the jump key in order to get the maximum height, so it's easy to mess up.
Yeah, we're going to be seeing a lot more damage boosting later in the game. And they do get harder, I would say, because they make you take more damage, and they're also just straight up harder to do, thanks to some circumstances surrounding it. So far, they're not very far apart. Things can change very fast in this game, and they are just like almost one portal apart in the floating keep, so this is a close one so far.
And honestly, just as someone who's kind of experienced with racing myself, I would say that it's likely that flachmitz is probably just having a bit of nerves here at the start of the race, which it's kind of normal. And then as you get farther into the run, that can, you can get used to it really quick, and then it's like you sometimes just need a couple mistakes to kind of work out the kinks in your play for that day, get used to things, feel comfortable, and then you can take over and start to play well.
Yeah, definitely. And since you don't have the added pressure of just if you get a good run going right at the start, you're going to be having a bit of pressure from like, oh, this might be PB pace. So I would say actually a death that isn't too costly early isn't necessarily that bad in a race, just because it can get you like a bit more calmed down.
Alright, so while flachmitz is trying to take down that second portal, Giga just finished up with the first boss, the first encounter with Myogi. Now he'll be able to use that feather to slide, which speeds up the movement and lets you do a lot of different platforming. You can combine it for some pretty cool jumps too.
Yeah, later on in the game, sliding becomes very important. In the floating keep, it's mostly used for going faster while on the ground, but it becomes like essential to doing some platforming later on.
Giga not going for the swag skip here with the 2 turrets. That's unfortunate. Gonna have to dock him a few points.
It is ridiculously hard, so you can't blame somebody for not going for it, but it would be cool if he got it.
Flachmitz unfortunately getting trolled a bit by the fire guy there, spawning below the platform and out of reach, which makes it kind of unable for you to reach him. So losing a bit of time there, but gets through Myogi just fine.
I don't remember. Is Fire Guy one of the faster attacks if you get it like good RNG on them?
I know it used to be. There was a change a little while back where the Fire Guys used to be vulnerable before they technically appeared on the screen, and so if you could instantly have them both spawn on top of you while you were spamming your weapon, you could take them both out like right away, and that was very fast. I think it was actually the fastest of the attacks. It's probably on par now with like the eyeballs or the convings, I would say.
Okay, just with the added element of RNG, of course.
Yeah. If they spawn below, then obviously it's probably the slowest.
So, well, Giga is entering Pagora. Flachmitz did not decide to go for the swag skip as well. So we'll be getting none of that.
We're going to have to talk to our runners about that after this race.
Yeah, we're going to have to fix that somehow.
But Pagora goes down. No problem for Giga. Coming up here on the falling skip, where you're able to use a second save file to give V a single use of double jump in order to jump out of an auto scroller at the start of this area, which is really nice. It saves about a minute.
Unfortunately, he didn't get the good version of the falling skip, even though the quote-unquote bad version is worse. It still saves a lot of time, and it's also a hard skip to do, since you need to be like aware of when the game loads up again, and you can't be too slow, because then the game will realize you don't actually have a double jump. Here.
Alright, here we go, getting that vomit attack from Pagora, where he spawns up there at the top right and just kind of shoots at you and hovers there. That's a really easy attack to... It's basically the best RNG you can get on that boss. It lets you just use one weapon, jump up and down, and just take down the boss. You can just beat it down before it can take you out.
That was actually really good execution. I don't think I actually get like instant kill on Pagora Vomit, so I'm gonna have to say good job on that one.
Yeah, for sure.
So what looks like just... Yeah, hey, go ahead.
I was just saying, looks like Flachmitz having a bit of trouble there with the falling skip again. Like we said, you've got to use that jump button like right away when you load the file back in to the auto scroller. Otherwise, you don't get the jumps.
Yeah, it's precise. Giga just went for save skips at Electram, and since he got the bad version of the falling skip, he decided to save at the village instead. Unfortunately, he took a lot of damage from the orb, so he's probably going to take the save before. Yeah.
Alright, so Giga's getting to Electram here. Had to take that save. Has full HP, but won't get the save skip bonus at the end. Flachmitz, meanwhile, did get that falling skip to work out after a few tries, so he's making his way over to get that double jump feather.
This could be something that actually evens it out a bit, since if Flachmitz gets the save skips, he will gain a lot of time from that compared to Giga, who couldn't skip all the saves for Electram.
Absolutely, and I think that's somewhere around a 10-second, maybe more save, so that's a pretty big deal if he gets it.
Let's see, will he go for the one in the village, or the one at the top of Electram Mountain, whatever you want to call it?
I didn't see
the second one, probably. Yeah.
I didn't see which attacks Electram had already used. Okay, so we got the lightning attack. This is a good attack to finish him off if you get over to the right, because you can just flutter to the side, just like that. Giga did that perfectly.
That was well done. If you have a lot of HP, you can also choose to tank the like jump lightning thing if you want. It's a bit slower if you do the damage, the one without damage taken, well, since you'll just do damage the entire time instead of getting stunned from the hit. So Flachmitz gets the save skip. Nice.
Yeah, very well done there. There was a second there when I thought he was going to get hit there by that last lightning orb, but he made it.
That one is tricky. Like, you have to slide at the right moment, or you'll just stand up into it instead.
Yeah, because the way the way slide works in this game is kind of weird. Is when you slide off of an edge of a platform, V actually, as soon as she's up off of like the floor and she's just in the air, she immediately goes upright, vertical, as if she was standing. And so if you're trying to like slide underneath a bullet, you've got to time it right, because if you slide off the edge and you're just underneath the bullet, you're going to stand up and hit it.
Okay, I'm not sure, but if Flachmitz was lucky, he might have cancelled orbs from Electram, so let's hope for that. Oh, no. It's probably running then.
Yeah, this orbs attack right here is the one we never want to get, because it just basically is nothing but a time loss. there's nothing you can do about it. You can't do damage. You just have to wait.
And Electrum's down. Nice.
Electrum is down. He's going to get that save skip, so he'll make up a little bit of time here on the backtrack. Reminder that the Electrum Feather lets you now have Orbs of Purity that you can shoot at enemies, so you now have a ranged attack.
So now Giga's gonna do one of my worst skips in the entire game, and it's Falling Skip. He chooses to go for the bug strategy, since it's a bit safer, and it's also a bit easier to time, since you will clearly see the bug shot coming at you, instead of like the windmill, where it can hit you depending on when you're standing. Ooh, that's a painful death.
I've been seeing a lot of runners die to that specific set of spikes right there this tournament. It seems like it's kind of one that it's not super visible, so people will just accidentally kind of land on top of that.
Yeah, I think it's also like just old muscle memory playing in, since back in the day we didn't have to go for the heart because there was a change in the rock throwers, so we just skipped the heart instead. But now it's a lot riskier, since it's a lot easier to take damage from them when they die.
Should be noted that this save right here, the Veil 2 skip, is probably, I would almost say, one of the hardest in the game to execute, especially at the speedrunner level. Like, you've got to go fast through it. There's a lot of damage coming your way. That damage boost does a lot of damage to you initially. It's pretty tricky.
Okay, let's see. Will Giga get the troll kit? No.
I always give up on this thing after like one attempt and just go for the troll cave, but it's definitely it's a tricky skip, but it's absolutely worth it if you can get it right away.
Oh yeah, it's probably one of the hardest damage boosts in the game, especially one of the more conventional ones, because there are some damage boosts that like no one uses, but since the cave skip is just so good, you really want to get it, and you're going in half blind thanks to the screen still loading in. So it makes it really hard, and you almost have to go by heart when timing the jump from the damage boost.
You might be wondering like why the runners are choosing to attempt this skip over and over. The troll cave is the troll cave by name for a reason. We've named it that as the community because doing the platforming in this cave is just really unforgiving and kind of mean. There's a few parts in it that are just almost unfair, so people like to avoid it if they can.
Giga decides to take the save in the middle of the troll cave because the skip is just taking too much time for him now. Oh. And he's entering Amethyst. Oh, that was close from flachmitz.
Alright, so Amethyst, boss that basically you can do damage to every single cycle until she puts up her red fire shield around her body, in which case you can tell that she is now invincible until the next cycle begins.
Okay, so flachmitz got the skip in the end. He did take the save before Amethyst, probably just a safe strat for a race, since Amethyst can give you some bad RNG that will not let you leave without taking damage. Especially if you're not comfortable with her. I know I'm not comfortable at Amethyst at all, so definitely a smart move to take the save, I would say.
I'm comfortable on some things, but don't talk to me about those phase 3 rocks.
Oh god, they're absolutely horrible.
But yeah, so fairly close race here after Giga had a pretty big early lead. Now flachmitz has caught up after having a bit better luck with Veil 2 and Electrum.
See here, they're really close. They're like, what, one phase apart?
Yeah.
Okay, this is shaping up to be a good one. Okay, will he get? Yeah, he gets it. Nice.
Alright, so Giga is getting out of Amethyst and is going to be heading over to the Sinister Grottos, which is a platforming section that is, I would say, one of the most consistent parts of the game. It is really fun, though, and I really love the music in that area.
And Amethyst is down for flachmitz as well. Okay, they're very close right now. Let's see how the cave treats them.
So that there are in the grottos, because, as I mentioned, this area is very consistent in terms of the platforming. You can, if you're practiced up on every save, you can skip a lot of save points to save time. Some runners still will choose to not skip the saves, though, out of just not being comfortable. And that kind of a time save can make a big difference right now with a race this close. So we'll see if they choose to skip saves or try to play it more safe.
Flachmitz just missing the switch with the orb there at the end.
Giga not going for underdog. Once again, we'll have to talk up to the runner after this race.
I think your standards are too high from the Canaris race.
Oh man, Giga having some trouble with the laser puzzle there. That's, to be honest, it's one of the harder parts of this area, especially when you're first learning the game. So it's easy for your fingers to just play tricks on you and decide that they have just forgotten how to do that save once in a while. It's happened to me.
I don't think you can slow down once during that. When you fire the last orb, you need to go the entire time, or you will die or get stuck between the lasers.
Giga choosing to go for the Wolfie strats there in the plant room.
Watch out, Cake! You're gonna get
I mean,
rage from.
I meant the Phraseless strats, okay? But what you're doing there is because save points can kill enemies in this game, as long as you have seen them on the screen, is you jump up to get view of all the plants in the room above you, then you go back down, take the save, and it takes out the plants so that it becomes an easier room to clear.
And that also only works when it's the save point that you haven't taken yet, so you can't just stand on one single save point and spam. And now Flachmitz is in the lead since Giga failed the underwater mine section.
So the mine section here is just it's kind of a nerve-wracking section. It's like you have to go through this big kind of maze of mines, and they do half of your HP if you hit one. And so you can take one hit and you're fine, but if you take that second one, you are in trouble. And it's one of the longer, because you're skipping a save to do the shortcut that they took there too with the, like, underneath the minecart by dropping out. So it's a big time loss if you fail it.
Oh yeah, definitely. And Giga choosing not to take the save, even though the mines will kill him in one hit. But he gets it just fine. Okay, we're hoping for water physics right now.
And I'm loving this race so far. We are having back and forths. No water physics. There is a way in this game, right, just for this boss. You can jump out of the water, and if you do it in just the right way, you can trick the game into thinking you're still underwater even though you're not. And it's useful for finishing up this boss because you can jump out of the arena a few seconds earlier. I think it's like somewhere around a 6-second time save if you can get it first try.
Yeah, but it's ridiculously hard, and going for it, I think Frey is the only one who's actually attempted it in a run so far. Hopefully we'll get to see it during one race, because it is really cool, and you can do it on accident as well.
Okay, so Dark Annihilator here, once it gets low on HP, he starts to do some different things. He'll shoot rockets from the right side of the screen, which heal the boss if they hit him. And it's just, in general, you just need to multitask a little bit on this boss to take down all the projectiles while you're dodging stuff, while you're shooting. It's kind of a fun boss to execute. Unfortunately, Giga letting one of the bombs hit the floor there, which carpets it with fire and makes it so that you cannot stand on that spot of the screen anymore.
Oh, it's getting a bit hairy now.
Okay. Alright, so both of our runners passed Dark Annihilator. Flachmitz with a bit of a lead still.
Now, even though Dark Annihilator is probably one of the easier bosses in the game, if you, like, slip up one time, it can make everything go wrong. Since you need to, as Cake said, multitask, but if one thing goes wrong, suddenly everything starts going wrong. Because you can't stand there anymore, and then things start flying everywhere, so it's very hard. And now it's very even, because Flachmitz failed a bit on this save. Let's see, and he gets it. Oh. Giga just misses.
So, fortunately here, this is one of the sections of the game where some of the more experienced runners will skip multiple saves, but our runners were playing it a bit safe there, and it paid off because they made some mistakes, and they were able to recover fairly quickly because they were respawning so close to the obstacles they were having trouble with.
Now Giga did not take the second save in that section, while flachmitz did, so we did make up a little bit of time there. So let's see. Hopefully he will get this. You can risk this a bit and go a little bit crazy, but I'd say it's not worth it since and that's especially nerve-wracking. Like if you leave the minecart early to go into the water and jump around.
This entire section it's full of saves that are just like they're kind of just terrifying to do the final jump or two. Like so you've got to be very careful with stuff, and skipping the saves can feel very uncomfortable.
Okay, so this is really close so far. On the same minecart.
Flachmitz going for the plants. Is he going to go for the drive-by achievement?
Will he do it? Then the underdog will be forgiven. Looks like he won't. Okay.
No drive-by. Man, we've really got to talk to these guys.
Yeah. I actually did drive-by in my race recently, and I failed and died.
The price you pay for swag.
Well, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Alright, so here we are on Terravine. The thing with Terravine is you want to just be in his face, damaging him the entire time. As long as the boss does not touch you, you can stand really close to him and not take damage. Most of the attacks you can deal with by being very close. A couple of them will push you away, and a couple of them you're going to want to even try just iframing through them by taking hits. The one exception is the big laser attack, where you've got to use a minecart to interrupt it.
Now, Giga did not go for the greedy strats on lasers. He instead chose to dodge. Also with the minecarts, just choosing to use one instead of the three we'd normally go for. And flachmitz also left one up. So it's probably a bit of race nerves that makes them keep some safety for backup.
And I won't blame them, because this race so far has been kind of back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure they're both on edge about stuff, so sometimes safety is more important than playing aggressive.
They are only exactly 1 minute apart, so it is real close, this one. Getting the kill on Terravine just a bit later, a few seconds at most.
Yeah, this is a really close race going into Underworld, which we're coming up soon on the halfway point of the game, so this is going pretty well so far. Alright, so this save right here, you're seeing flachmitz do, and Giga's starting to. You're trying to just dash to the far right side of this area. You don't have to kill these enemies, because when you reach the save point and you touch the save, it'll actually wipe them all out. So a lot of times runners here, they will just make a mad dash. It looks like both of our runners here having a bit of trouble, so they slow down a bit, but you get the idea. The save point is the safety place. You need to reach that before you die.
It can be a little bit scared to do the dash though without killing a single enemy, since there are like maybe 4 enemies in total, and then on top of that you have the fire jets coming out of the ground. So I can definitely understand killing a few of the enemies to make it just a bit easier.
What's also kind of scary about that save is the fact that there's that zombie tree that comes after you, and the enemies that are chasing you, especially the skeleton, because he can go so fast, can just stun you mid-jump and make it hard to climb up.
When the tree just knocks you back from the platform, so you can't jump on.
That was so close. Giga with the clutch dodge there at the end. He had 20 HP. That would have taken him out. So both of our runners getting past the Underworld portal, which is one of the places where a lot of runners will have trouble. So this is going pretty sweet.
Let's see what happens.
Should talk about the flutter dash mechanic thing here. So the last feather they got from that portal is you can now pick up these wings that are kind of hanging in the air, and when you get it, you can use your action button, the same button that does slide and flutter, and that will send you shooting off in a direction in any of 8 directions, and you can combine that with a flutter to go even faster and farther.
We're probably gonna see 2 to maybe 3 more examples of that being used a bit later on in the game, all in the Acropolis. So depending on if they go for a few speed strats or not, there might be 1 or more one more or less.
Flachmitz having a bit of trouble there with that last save, which I don't blame him. That is one of the harder ones to execute. Sometimes the air vent can kind of drop you off at a different speed and location than you would expect, and so you end up not being in the right place, and you get trapped by one of the eater spikes. But they're both here on Craterack now, and this is one heck of a boss.
4 rocks for Giga, that was good. He got a bit unfortunate on the like one of the, I think it was the 3rd rock. Not the best spawn point, so he just dodged that and instead went for the other 2. That's pretty good damage so far. Giga's a bit ahead in damage and just in time as well. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, so again, this fight will just it just does a sidewind thing where it's going to go horizontal, then vertical, then horizontal, then vertical. Usually the fight ends on the 2nd horizontal phase. There are some times where you're able to end it earlier, but it's very difficult, and you have to be a bit lucky to even make it happen. So.
Ooh, nice. Getting rocks first here on the final cycle. That's really good.
Yeah, the rocks do a lot of damage when you hit them into the boss, so getting that twice is one of the fastest ways and safest ways to take out the boss. And both of them moving on, so...
Also, I would just want to mention on Craterack, usually when a boss hits you, you'll take 20 damage, but Craterack, if he lunges at you, you will be launched back and probably fall down onto the fire floor, which will throw you around even more, and you'll probably take another 20 damage from that. So you usually don't just take 1 instance of damage when you get hit by Craterack.
Yeah, he definitely tends to combo you. It almost kind of doesn't matter which attack he hits you with. It's very easy for him to follow up each attack with another one. So again, here we are just going to collect 3 keys, which we will use later to go through 3 gates. And so we have to go through each of these paths. And the intended way to play this is you're supposed to take the save at the end of the path, and then there's actually a backtrack section that's pretty difficult. And because of the way the game is coded, we can actually just grab the key and then just take a death warp back to the beginning, and we keep the key. So by not taking the save, it actually makes this area a lot safer.
That was a nice save from Giga. I thought he would have died there. And he gets it. Oh no, that was so close.
So it's again one of these things where like you want to skip saves because it makes the area easier, but by skipping saves it also makes getting there tougher. So it's just kind of like Electram earlier on. Kind of unfortunate. Giga's had some bad luck with this stuff so far this run.
Yeah, I think top key is the only one where you won't lose that much time on the save if you take it, because you don't really have to do any hard backtracking. You can just walk down and fall all the way to the bottom. But if you take the last save, that's where it gets tough.
Alright, so flachmitz making easy work of that worm chase there. So once you go through the 3 gates with the keys, then the worm chase happens, and you've got to execute the dashes very, very consistently to get through that without getting hit. And it's a one-hit kill if the worm catches you. Unfortunately, failing the jump up there to the safety point here. This save's kind of a tricky one too, because you're trying to conserve your jumps for the very end, but it's very tight to get up there without both your jumps and a flutter.
You can do a bit of a swag strat on that save, where you just slide up the side of the portal using the air vents, because they're a little bit weird. Although I can't really say I recommend it, because it's very inconsistent and weird to do. Oh, let's see here. Now AC skip coming up, and this is my absolute favorite skip in the game, because it skips the worst boss with the worst music. So you just damage boost and jump over the trigger in the middle. Also damage boosting a bit off of the statue itself. And flachmitz just did a beautiful skip there.
Just gotta say, I don't know if I can ever forgive you for calling AC's music the worst music, but sure. Now flachmitz is here on the Acropolis of Anguish, just heading to the right side, going to take out that conving with a save, and then go speak to the other angel friends to discuss their plans of how they're going to take down the next couple of bosses and get out of here. Meanwhile, Giga getting that AC skip, and here we are, both of them very close once again.
I'd probably angered the entire Wings V community with that statement.
Probably, but hey, we all make mistakes.
It happens.
I didn't see that there. It looked like flachmitz went for the damage boost though, so doing good strats here.
See, oh,
and see if you can make. Oh no! So right there, what you're trying to do is there's a big section of platforming to the right called the library, and you can grab that feather and you can use it in combination with a flutter to get some extra momentum that wasn't necessarily intended by the developer, even though it perfectly makes sense as to why it works, and it lets you skip that entire section. And there you go, second try, got it, no problem.
Let's see here, what's gonna happen for Giga? Also, just worth to mention, if you miss the first attempt at the skip, as flachmitz did at the beginning, you most likely will not be able to get it, because then the red spike orbs will be flying about everywhere. So Giga doing good on this section. And also the elevator, it's just a really long section. Mostly everything works by just cycles and your position when you're standing. So for a speedrunner, it's not too hard, but if you're playing the game for the first time, this will be a nightmare.
And Giga giving me a heart attack there by standing on the left side of that platform before sliding to the right. That was close. I wonder if he always does that.
I think he does. So far we haven't seen any swag strats, so probably he just swags off naturally. So
reminder that these swirling black holes up here, if you touch one of them, it's a one-hit KO, so you want to avoid those. A lot of runners will reset at the start of the elevator in order to make those black holes on the same cycle every time. Otherwise, they'll be a bit different.
flachmitz making short work of these skeletons. You can do it without killing them. It's a bit harder since you need to manipulate them really well, but it's definitely possible.
Fun fact, the two skeletons at the end of the elevator, there's actually only one on demon mode, because there was one time a streamer who complained that it was impossible to beat it on demon. And our good friend in chat, Smash, proved that that was wrong. But then it got patched anyway.
So, explain to me, what is flachmitz doing right now?
flachmitz is trying to set up for the Myogi 2 Enrage skip. What you need to do, and you're going to, I think, see Giga do it here too, is heal the boss 6 times at the start of the fight. Though I think we've actually found out you can now do it with different amounts of healing as well. But you're going to heal her to a certain point so that later, when she does an attack at a specific time, you can stun the boss basically within a frame or two of when she was going to start the Enrage phase, and that'll cancel the phase, which also saves you around 40 seconds.
Yeah, you can do it with different amounts. Usually you go for 6, since it's the easiest and, well, since it's easier, most consistent one. But Frozen Nose has shown me videos where you can do it of 5. So you instead use an audio cue, which says eat this. I'm pretty sure you can use 4 healing as well, but I think that's way too hard, to be honest.
Alright, so here we're going to see a classic example of just how much time this skip actually saves you. flachmitz got the skip, and so he finished the boss off very quickly, but Giga unfortunately missed it. And so we're going to see this Enrage phase go on here for quite a bit of time, after which he'll be able to finish off the boss. But it's definitely a time sink.
They were even at the start of this boss fight. They were still very close to each other, but since Giga got the Enrage plus the healing setup, it's gonna cost a lot of time for him.
Okay, so flachmitz going here through the slug rooms. Got to take out this queen here, and then there will be a... Basically, once all the little slugs die, then the platform there will disappear, so you can drop through. So there's a few ways you can do it. You can either try to aggressively take out all the slugs yourself with your weapons, which is the fastest way, but it's also kind of tricky. Or you can just kill the queen, and then let the black hole portal suck in all the worms at the end.
see here. Looks like he will get M2 even though he got the enrage, which makes the fight considerably harder, since you now have the red skull that burns you, chasing you. Oh, going for lava skip. Well,
Lava skip. Lava skip from Giga. flachmitz not forgetting the portal password, so we've had a lot of runners this tournament forget that password and mess it up a couple of times, but he got it first try. Let's see if Giga can match that later.
Unfortunately, no Oga skip for flachmitz. He was a bit slow on the way here, so hopefully Giga will be able to get it and even it out just a bit more.
So now going into the chambers, and the chambers, once again, I would say it's kind of similar to Grotto, where things are consistent here, but the difficulty is absolutely ramped up a bit. You can, this is one of the places in the run where I feel very comfortable just going very fast, and I'm not going to die, but it can absolutely, if you start choking on a jump, it can just eat up time like nothing. So we'll see how well he does. Giga going for the password. Does he get it? Yes.
Yes, no problem.
Absolutely no problem. Giga is a champ. He can do it.
Oh. Question is, will he get the Oga cycle? Probably not. No, he won't.
Okay, flachmitz now getting to the double skeleton save here, which is a fun one to do if you do it with the passive strats. He's going to slow down and just play it safe, though, and take him out, which there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's a bit slower, but it's absolutely safer.
Just froze for a bit.
So while that's frozen, Giga making his way down here. You got to hit a couple of switches on the way down to delay the ceiling of spikes from falling and crushing you. But you don't have to hit every one, which is a common way that newer players struggle on the screen, is trying to chase down every switch.
It's actually just a trap.
Classic Solgren. Remember, he made Bashi, so he likes to troll people.
Oh god. I just remember the spikes after the chase and after... Well, when you enter the chambers.
Absolutely. There are places where it's like, he puts the save point like right in your line of sight, and it makes you think, oh, I beat the save, I'm going to go grab it really quick. And then you just slide into it, and then you hit a spike, and you die. You wonder, wait, what's happened?
Okay. I have no clue what happened to Flach. Seeing someone say that his machine broke, apparently. Hopefully he will be able to get back. Oh, this is going to be tough for Giga now. Oh, he got the skeleton.
Gets
nice.
Out of there with 5 HP.
No problem.
That is terrifying.
I would be so shaky after that. Whew.
So yeah, I don't know what's going on. But Giga making his way over here. This is one of the harder jumps to pull off with that little gate that you have to flutter in between. And now entering the Twin Orcs. And I actually believe Giga goes for the standard strat here, the intended way.
He never learned the quick kill, I think. Was that fire or an invisible dog? I have no clue.
All right, so basically, if you're going to play this boss the intended way, the best way to do it is to do this thing where you bait the orcs into jumping to a certain location, and then you go to the other side of the platform and bait them somewhere else, and that just gives you space so that you can dodge the upcoming attacks.
Now, while it is considerably slower to do it this way, it's definitely understandable because the quick kill is very hard to do. You need to practice a lot for it to get the muscle memory down. So now Giga is just going to show us how the enrage is done. Oh, no, never mind. Commentator's curse.
Commentator's curse. So this is one of those things where I've seen it happen fairly often before, where you can, if you're holding the down key, anticipating the slide in a certain direction, but V's still facing the direction you were going before, she'll actually slide in the opposite direction that you were expecting. And so I think that's what happened, because he was setting up there to slide to the left, but then just went straight off the edge to the right.
Yeah, it's probably what happened. It didn't look fun at all.
Because I know that gets me sometimes on the final boss when I'm like setting up for like the dive. And that never feels very good. So it should be noted that this boss has different attacks based on where you are. And flachmitz is back. Looks like, wow, actually a race where both runners not going for the quick kill, it looks like.
And the orcs are down. Flach probably doing some secret strats while we couldn't see.
In any case, though, he's on his way to the Path of Decay, which is the final section of the game and where things ramp up quite a bit in difficulty. You get halfway through this orcs fight. We'll hope he's able to get through it okay this time so he can catch back up.
Now, I'd personally say you can see, like, kind of well how good a player is depending on their Path of Decay, because there's long saves, hard platforming, and weird mechanics, Space Meatball coming in. So if you get a really good Path of Decay, it will show, definitely, compared to one where you have a few deaths here and there.
flachmitz having a bit of trouble with the... you have to jump on top of this little heart thing that actually disappears the platform as soon as you hit the switch, so it's very precise, actually, the timing to get on top of that. It's one that if your muscle memory is just taking a vacation for a few minutes, you can definitely rack up some deaths there. And sweet, Giga getting through those orcs.
I just wish he would have swagged and suicided when they were at 0 HP. Since the orcs will still die if they're like dead when you're dead, and then you just reset and continue.
Alright, so this screen that flachmitz is on, and you have to touch the switch there 4 times, and then after you've triggered it 4 times, you have to still leave one of the crumbling platforms up so that you can exit the screen to the right. So it's kind of a tricky puzzle to figure out when you first play this game. And there's definitely several different strats of getting through there as a speedrunner even. Some of them are safer, some of them are faster, and it kind of just comes down to preference, which ones people like to use.
Here, flachmitz coming on climb. This is a particularly hard section because there's a lot of enemies and some annoying platforming with the crumbling rocks. And then, just when you think you're done, there's more enemies.
Yeah, the fight at the end of this can be very scary if you don't have HP left to take hits with. Fortunately, flachmitz got up there with plenty of HP, so that was no problem, despite he still only had 1 hit left at the end, so cutting it kind of close.
The skeletons can be real annoying on that save, since they don't necessarily always go in your line of sight regarding your orbs. So they can just hover just below where you can actually shoot. So they then just wait and charge right back at you. Let's hear Bone Snake. Do you think he'll do the swag?
You know, if he doesn't, gonna have things to talk about. There is a swag strat. Oh no, misses the switch. But there's a swag strat you can do on that. That's very, very difficult, really, to first learn. I would say it's not that hard once you learn it, but it's scary to first attempt doing it in runs because you end up landing on top of a door as it breaks away. So
it's scary.
It's precise. Doesn't go for it there, but no problem. It's only a couple seconds of time save. It's really not a big deal. Getting that demon form, or as we like to call it in the community, the Space Meatball.
Now, this is pretty weird, because it kind of wobbles around, so you might think you're safe flying somewhere, but then the meatball just flies down a tiny, tiny bit, and the spikes will either eat you or just stab you. Now the final part of the Space Meatball coming up, this is kind of precise, to be honest. Like, you cannot waste a lot of gas on it.
You can't.
Yeah, small corridors.
It's just this one of these sections where it's like you have to do tiny taps on your D-pad or your joystick or your arrow keys on your keyboard to dodge those spikes and keep going straight. And it seems so simple, but it's actually kind of scary and definitely not easy.
Ooh, did Giga attempt the strat swag?
I don't think so. I think he just missed the switch. Same as flachmitz had earlier. It's
okay.
It's one of those things where a lot of times you go for that switch and you think you touched it, but then you just barely didn't, and you're trying so hard to like not overcommit to it because you have to get back to the snake.
Now, while they are a few screens apart, there's still three, well, maybe one or two, I mean, tough bosses left, so this can still swing anyway.
Absolutely. I mean, we're coming up on what's basically a boss rush. There's some platforming after Azrael, but it's not very much of it. And it's some of the stuff I would say that most runners don't have a problem with, really. So it's once you reach Azrael, it's almost just a boss rush to finish out the game. And most of the time save that people will have there comes down to how well they execute the bosses, and the platforming is almost insignificant.
Let's see here. How will we do on the mountain? The skeleton's dead? Oh, and we got another freeze.
Some more trouble with flachmitz. Meanwhile, Giga doing the space meatball maze. Gets out of there okay, so he's going to start on the gauntlet, which is where flachmitz was when we lost track of him.
Let's see, does he use any kind of strats for this part?
Double flutter, let's go.
Oh! And he got it. Nice.
Giga getting some bonus points for that one.
Choosing to kill the skeleton instead of going pacifism. Just a bit slower, but also safer. No, Azrael. I wonder where flachmitz is.
Alright, so Azrael, once again, kind of a scary boss, mostly because gravity is any platformer player's biggest nightmare. All you have to stand on are these little wobbly platforms, and Azrael will, over the course of the fight, take them away, and it's your job to try to keep them up. But if you fail at multitasking everything as well as you can run into trouble really fast and have nowhere to stand.
And Azrael also has the single most awkward attack in the entire game, and that's these blue crystals or shards or whatever you want to call them. Since the patterns they have can be so weird, where they just fly up and down and you have no idea what's going on. Not only that, she can also fly towards you, shooting them at the same time, which is what we call a drive-by, and it's absolutely terrible. Because you never know what position they'll spawn from, what wave they'll take, so you're just gonna have to guess. That was a nice dodge.
And so Giga making a decision there, one of those blue portals spawned on the left side of the screen, and he's just staying over here on the right. Which is perfectly good. A lot of times they'll just be super tempted to go after those blue portals and swipe them down. But if they're far away from you, you can just leave them there and just go and manage the other half of the screen instead.
How many portals is the max? Is it 2 or 3? Because I don't think she'll spawn.
That's a great question.
After probably 2. So if you get portals that spawn on one side, like either very far to the left or right, that was really close.
That was a scary... isn't it always that way with Azrael, though? It seems like there's always... Definitely. Just at the end of the fight, it's so common for it to come down to the wire where you know you have no hits to take. Next hit will kill you. And a boss has like nothing left, and a lot of times you've got like one wobbly platform left, and it's just scary sometimes.
And all of a sudden you can just get a blue or purple crystal fired at you.
Alright, still no idea where flachmitz is. Giga making his way across the ice platforms here, going down to fight the enemies. Which you're actually on a timer on the screen. There's that yellow mist that's chasing you that will actually poison you, and so you're kind of in a hurry to kill this stuff and then get out of here before it reaches you.
So now we see it coming around here. That was a nice shark tooth, very fast.
Yeah, so no trouble there getting his way to Jael, which is the second to last boss.
This is close right now. This is so close. Both players just entering J2. No, J1, sorry. So this is gonna come down to spikes most likely, unless there's a death on this boss at least, because there's always the final boss and it's very, very hard.
Actually super impressed. Flachmitz looks like he's using envy strats, which can save you a few seconds if you're playing it right and very aggressive. Giga favoring the traditional lust, which lets you stay back a bit and play a bit safer.
I think he just switched to lust. I'm not sure. No, he actually didn't. I was just misreading that. Is that a triple headshot? It's just right in the neck, so I'm not sure. But it might have been.
Alright, Flashman's getting a little bit low on health here. Might consider switching to lust if he has any more trouble. Oh no.
It's unfortunate. And
okay. So it should be noted on that boss, don't be confused that the HP doesn't have to hit 0 for the boss for it to be over. The boss will just kind of give up when it's at anything less than 10%. And so now Giga moving on to face Jael's final form, Supreme Jael, which is also the hardest and most insane and best boss fight in the game, I would say. Flatch, unfortunately, having to refight Jael here.
And I'm pretty sure that Giga is actually on a PB pace right now, so if he gets this first try, it should be a PB.
Very well might be the case. So again, with Jael, you're really, this mostly comes down to knowing where the boss is going next, and then moving correctly to stay out of his way while you deal damage safely, and then use your healing orbs, which get dropped to keep your HP up, because there is poison that is just draining your HP right now. So if you stand still and just fight and be safe and never move around the screen, you will die just because of the poison. You have to move, grab those orbs, and then fight the boss in between.
And I just like to point out, like you said, play it safe on this boss. I would say play it as safe as possible, because it's such a hard boss.
Yes.
Just, you will have a lot of trouble with this at your first playthrough.
Okay, so Giga going for the second dive here. Gets it.
Takes a bit of damage in the process.
This fight will kind of just go on as is for a bit here until Jael hits 40% HP, at which point he will enrage. Whew, that was close too. Barely gets inside that shield in time. Meanwhile, Flachmitz starting the boss as well, so this is coming down to the wire.
Will Giga be able to do it? Let's see, first time for Flachmitz and third for Giga. And they both get it, nice. And the rage.
Alright, so now Jael, because he's enraged, is going to start doing double of his attacks. His laser goes up and down. The blue orbs that he shoots from the middle will now have 2 waves. So it gets a bit trickier here. It's a lot easier to take damage accidentally. And then when he does this bite attack here, he summons a worm, which you need to take care of right away, or else you will mess up and die.
The worm is fast, and it will fly all over the screen to get you. Oh, this might be really close.
Giga's he really cannot afford to take a hit here. And he's gotta prioritize those health orbs now more than ever.
Oh no!
Oh no! Tricky. That's unfortunate. Flashmitz in the meantime is coming up here on the Jael Enrage himself in just a moment, and he's gonna have his chance to close this out.
I don't think he's taking any damage so far.
Yeah, he's playing very well. He might have missed an orb, I think, but... Or maybe just been late on one. Looks like he went for the third dive, so that's kind of it's a safer strat, I would say, maybe, than doing the 2-dive strat that a lot of the faster speedrunners will use.
Ooh, going for the laser tank, but doesn't quite get it.
So the laser tank strat, there's actually a way there, because Jael does a double laser going up and then going, or down and then up. You can do a thing where you can use your iframes to take a hit when it's at the very peak, and then you can basically iframe through it. So use your invincibility for a second to avoid taking a second hit. And in the meantime, you can just go ham on Jael, just swiping him with your weapon.
Oh, this is gonna be close. And he gets it.
All right, so flachmitz does end up with the RTA victory here.
Whew, that was close. That was really close, and it was a really good run for him as well. Considering what's been going on, let's see, what's his timer at right now? 52 and 20. So probably around 30 seconds slower when he killed J2. Sorry.
All right, let's see if Giga can close this out. Got the enrage going. He's got his HP this time, so that's pretty good.
Let's see what'll happen.
Unfortunately, takes that swoop. Sometimes when JL does that kind of move like that, oh no.
Oh no. See, that's what happens with the worms.
Yeah, that's what happens when the worms, when they get out, you've got to, like, stay where you are, and you've got to just instantly kill it, because if it gets loose, it'll harass you, and it makes it, the thing about it is it's not necessarily the worm itself that's the problem, but it's the fact that the worm makes it so that you have a hard time dodging other attacks. It just makes it so easy to take damage after that.
Yeah, since you don't want to take damage from either one. I actually think it's more dangerous to take damage from the worms. They do 25 damage, I'm pretty sure. While J2 only does 20 damage with his attacks. Unless it's his tail that just takes you for a bit. But you having to dodge the worms and also dodging J2's attacks makes it really weird, especially since the worm is fast.
Alright, so Giga once again here, getting JL low, going for the trap, got him.
Let's see, can he do it this time? He's taken a few hits, but it still has a decent amount of HP left.
Yeah, he's fine as long as he doesn't overcommit on aggression or miss the healing orbs.
That was close, that laser. Worms,
taking a bot from the worm. Ooh.
That was scary.
Okay, so sometimes, like, one thing you can do right there that Giga just did is you can actually use an audio cue. You can hear when JL makes a certain sound, which attack he's going to do next. The laser one is a very easy audio cue to listen for, and so even if you can't see the boss and you're on the other side of the screen, you can hear the laser coming, so you know when to duck down and dodge it.
This is gonna be another real close attempt.
Close attempts in J2, you almost feel like that's a common thing or something.
Yeah, it might be. Oh, come on, Giga. And he gets it. Nice job.
Alright, so flachmitz with the 54-27, Giga with the 58-19. Very close race again until the very, very end, pretty much. We couldn't see everything going on in flachmitz's end there throughout Path of Decay, but man, both of them ending up at J2. Giga had the chance to close it out, but unfortunately took that death. Still a really good race.
He was probably nerfed since he had a few deaths on J2, but still got a 56-48. So that's a really good time, especially considering he was definitely PB pace when entering J2. Let's see if we can get the runners on for an interview. waiting here for a bit. Hello.
Hey!
Hey.
Welcome, Giga.
What's up? What's up?
How are you feeling?
A little disappointed.
Horrible.
If I would have first tried J2, it would have been a PB.
Yeah,
but
outside
we
there was a
The
big
nerves
thunderstorm
are real.
and I lost connection a few times.
Was it nerves at the end that did you in?
no, I guess
Was it nerves at the end, like at J2 that?
Oh,
did you in?
absolutely.
Hello.
Hey!
Hey,
That's
Welcome,
totally
Giga.
understandable. A race on top of a PB
What's up?
attempt? No. That's how are you I actually really don't want to deal with.
a little
Hello.
disappointed.
I think one of you still has your
If I
audio
would've-
going.
If I would have first tried J2, it would have been a PB. But
OBS, like,
The
Yeah,
nerve-
we know
great.
it's
the
But
nerves
yeah,
are real.
so that was a
it
close
nerves
one,
at the end
guys.
that did you
That
in?
was awesome.
It's been back and forth
Hmm?
all along. Was it nerves at
Like,
the end?
there had
like
to
at
have been
G2
like what,
that-
Oh,
like 4,
absolutely.
maybe 5, maybe 6 lead changes throughout that
That's
race.
totally
That was-
understandable. A race on top
Oh,
of a
wow.
PB attempt? No, that was
Okay.
that's something I actually
Like
really don't want to
Giga,
deal
you
with.
were actually ahead there on J2 before you took the death. One of you still has your
was
able to catch back up and take the lead there, and you finish off the boss. So we were just like audio that we were holding our breath the entire time during the end game. It was like, man, who's gonna? That was a close one, guys.
Oh my god. I have to rewatch it because I don't know, after Twin Orcs I lost the connection because of a thunderstorm outside.
Oh,
And
that's
I tried
okay.
to fix my router and yeah, my concentration was gone and yeah, I don't know.
Well, despite that, you played pretty well and kept it to be a very close race and was able to finish it out. So, GG.
Yeah, I tried my best. I don't know if it's count.
Well, it's still good runs. Like, considering everything, sub-hour runs from both of you, that's really good. Good job.
I still haven't been able to get the troll cave skip since been practicing the last week or two. And
It's hard.
Absolutely, yeah.
back when I was like when Frey first found it, I was able to get it pretty well, but lately it's just like not giving it up.
Yeah, actually, the troll cave was one spot where both of you were kind of stuck there for a bit, trying to go for that skip. It was like you had a lead early in the game, Giga, and then it was about there when flachmitz caught up, and then both of you were stuck there for a bit, and then Giga, you got past it first. But it was that was definitely a scary minute there.
Yeah, my start was horrible. I had floating keep 1. I died 2 times so bad. This cost so much time.
I cursed you. It was commentator's curse. Because I was just explaining that those saves are very long, and if you take a death, it can be a big time loss, and then you fell into a pit. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, also, sorry Giga, I cursed you as well at Twin Orcs with the commentator's curse, so sorry for that one.
Don't know what happened there.
I think
after
you got
the
that
end-
thing with the slide where you slide the wrong
Yeah.
direction. Yeah.
It did. I was facing one way, and then she just shot off the cliff, and I didn't know what happened.
It's an unfortunate. I don't know if it's a glitch or if it's just an oversight that we make as players, but like it's kind of one of those things where you're holding down and you're expecting V to slide in a certain direction, but you actually have to like make sure that you turn and slide in the direction you're going to slide, or else she'll slide whatever direction you were last holding. So it can be mean.
Yeah, I swear I was holding left, but then I pressed it, and she just right off the edge. The run was pretty fun though. Aside from, I'm just really glad I didn't spend 10 minutes on Azrael. Otherwise than that, I'm pretty happy about the run.
Azrael,
Yeah, me too.
scary.
It was so close at the end. Oh god.
I think we missed yours, flachmitz, but Giga, like at the very end, it was one of those things where he had like 10 or 15 health left, and it was just like Azrael was just like sitting right next to him, and you're just like so scared. Like, what is her next attack of his blue crystals? I don't know if he can make it, and he just barely finishes her off.
Also, just want to say it again, great run, but we have some criticism. What happened to the swag strats? The underdog achievement, or the drive-by?
Yeah, I killed this first 3 plans, but the other 3 was too hard.
Okay, half a drive-by. That's
I
good enough.
didn't go for it.
Neither of you went for the double turret skip and floating keep, where you can just slide off and jump flutter, the pixel perfect strat. I'm so disappointed.
Maybe next time.
Ugh.
All right, well, flachmitz, do you have any other comments on your race? Anything else you want to talk about, or?
No, I have to look if I got a local record of it, and I hope.
Well, I think the way this will work is we can definitely give you the RTA win for this race because you did finish under the or in the amount of time that we can see on screen.
Okay.
We'll have to verify later to see how the in-game time works out for the seeding later in the tournament. But either way, good game to you. Congrats on the win. And yeah, Giga, good race. That was close, man. You did pretty well.
Thanks for having me.
Sex cake.
You bet. So best of luck. I mean, remember, this tournament's not over. You guys are still going to be going on to further rounds, and so stay tuned for next week's matchup. And then, yeah, this tournament's just getting better and better. So thanks for being here, everybody.
Also, I don't know no commands for it in chat, but if you want to follow the runners or the commentators, you can do that. I don't know, I think it's !R and see. Yeah. So there you go.
And then big shout out once again to Speed Gaming. Thank you for helping us out with this tournament. It's sure making things a lot easier than it would be. We definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks very much.
And that's it for us. So yeah, we'll catch you guys later. There will be more V races this week, so stay tuned for that, as well as other content that Speed Gaming puts out. So see you next time.
Bye-bye.